Welcome back. This is the Seiko 6106-8100, Seiko's first sport diver. This is a magnificent looking watch from the 60s, and we're going to review it. If you like vintage watches, don't forget to subscribe, because we got it here. Now, this watch is believed to be the first Seiko sports diver. It was released in 1968, 3 years after the first dive watch, the Seiko 6217-8000 62 mass. So why is this one called a sports diver? Or rather, what is a sports diver? To my understanding, and also I saw quite a few articles that I read about vintage Seiko divers, a sports diver has a slimmer profile, lesser water resistance, which in this case is at 70, and also no screw down crown. And the look of this watch is a mix of a dress watch and a dive watch, as it has a bezel. Again, I may be wrong about the definition. I think they called it sports diver because it can't be used to the extreme as compared to a proper dive watch. Okay, so this specific model, 6106-8100, has several color variations. The sunburst gray dial, the blue dial, green dial, and this one is the silver dial. The gray dial is the most coveted one since it looks sleeker and closely resembles the 6117-8000 navigator timer. More on that later on. The case size of this watch is 38, a thickness of 11. As you can see, it's very thin profile. Lug to lug of 45. Oh, before I forget, this is not the original bracelet. This is from a Seiko LM, also known as the Lord Matic. Some similarities from the King Seiko watches. I think it looks okay, it matches pretty well, especially with that end link. I believe this is 19 millimeters of lug width. The moment I saw this watch, I instantly remembered the navigator timer, which I reviewed about 2 months ago, SPB 411. I have to say, this has a distinct design to it. They made a few models with this case shape with Seiko 5 on the dial. They also made different shapes and sizes. So this is just one of many Seiko sports divers. And this just happens to be the first one we have right here. The silver dial is just beautiful. The hands and indices, really nicely done, but the hands kind of resemble the 62 mass. This has an acrylic glass, and so far, it looks okay. Not many scratches. This wasn't made to be a true diver because the build design is on the dressier side. The navigator timer was a GMT, and it was released only about a year after this one, and Seiko stuck with this design language. I've always reiterated that these vintage watches, even though they are rated, for example, this one's 70 meters of water resistance, or whatever it claims to be, they are likely to give in to moisture, even to the slightest encounter with water. May it be washing your hands, and so on. This is the downside of these vintage watches. They look beautiful, but just be wary when it comes to water. But as far as the one we have right here, it is well kept and doesn't show any signs of water damage on the dial. The movement of this watch is 6106. It is a day-date version of the 6105, which is also notable movement from Seiko. I'd like to show you the date change here. That was the date change, but the quick set, which you have to push, is not functional, unfortunately. Yep, you're supposed to push it, the date will change, and once it changes, you push even further and the day will change. So it is kind of a weird mechanism before. Again, these are vintage watches, and I would be highly discouraged if that was the date mechanism in the present, because I would just change the time and forget about the date because it's so difficult to change. I think Seiko should reissue this watch. It's only fitting. They did it to the navigator timer, SPB 411 GMT. I mean, this one cost around $75 when it was released. And surely there's inflation now. But I hope if they do reissue, it would be affordable. Knowing Seiko, it is surely going to be a limited edition. But man, this watch just looks stunning. The wide dial and the colors just shine, and the way it plays with light, it is truly an everyday watch during those times, during those late 60s, especially on how clean it looks. It doesn't have a Seiko 5 logo. This one specifically I like because it doesn't have that. It's just Seiko, automatic, and nothing else. Just water 70 meters proof there, and the Suwa logo, which means it's really made in Japan. So the price of this one will vary from $400 to $450, depending on the dial color, because some dials are much more coveted. Is it worth it? I think if you have been looking at this model for a while now and really want it, I say go for it. It's not every day you see the first Seiko sports diver. But if you want to daily wear one, I think you're better off waiting for the reissue of this watch or the SPB 411. I just borrowed this from my uncle and I've been very careful about it not getting moisture, especially when you go in a cold room or in a car where there is air conditioning. That moisture will show, and that was usually caused by when you wash your hands or wash the dishes or something. It is easy to dry out. You just have to remove the stem and let the case dry out, remove the dial with the movement. But that's just a trade-off in these watches, since I also like fiddling with watches and opening them and modding my SKX. I'm feeling confident that I'm okay with removing watches from their cases. So, but if you're someone who just wants to appreciate watches and just wear them and have a watchmaker service them, then just keep in mind that they cannot be 100% trusted, these watches, because again, they are half a century old watch, especially this one, 1968. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, it's weird that I said that it's half a century old, but it doesn't look like it, right? I'll see you soon. Stay safe.